Breaking coverage out of Minneapolis, where an American citizen was shot to death, killed by an ICE agent. And the circumstances are not favorable for the Trump administration and its aggressive policies here. We'll go through the evidence we have. We also may learn more this hour from the United States government about its ongoing response. But the story exploded as soon as it happened, and there is all of this additional video. There also immediately were claims, which I can report based on the evidence we have, appeared to be false from the government, even amidst this unfolding tragedy. So we begin with the video evidence that we have. I'm going to play what is a disturbing video of the shooting. It is graphic. That is, of course, a very clear angle on what was a very fast escalation. And now, because the actual conduct of the agents is in question tonight, indeed, as we will discuss, Minnesota authorities are looking into an investigation of whether the ICE agents broke the law in what was ultimately the killing of that citizen. So we're going to slow this down. You can see the ICE agents approach this car on foot. An agent appears to try to open the driver's side door. You can see that vehicle in some motion, and you can see where the agents are positioned. The vehicle then, as you see, appears to be trying to drive basically down the road. We can debate the word choice, but ultimately it looks like driving away or an escape. You see it back up and then go off and to the right around that other vehicle. The agent fires 3 shots into the car. That is, at a minimum, before we get to a criminal law analysis, that is not considered proper use of force in policing, because based on what you have in this situation, there isn't the kind of predicate or apparent lethal threat to the officers. Indeed, while it's a chaotic situation, it looks like someone trying to effectively drive away. Now, as always, when we cover these type of stories, whether they involve domestic policing, local police, or in this case, federal agents operating under Donald Trump's much more aggressive approach to immigration enforcement, we have to remind everyone we do not know what happened before this available video. There are things that we could learn that might change the context here, and I don't say that didactically. I say that quite seriously. I've seen these type of stories evolve one way or the other. I also want to mention authorities confirmed the victim was this 37-year-old woman, and she died from that gunshot wound to the head. According to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, her mother has identified her as Renee Nicole Good and said she lived in the Twin Cities. So as we try to do with a story like this, you have now seen the video more than once. As I mentioned, it can be disturbing, especially once you know you're watching something that results in a shot to the head. But it's very important because the Trump administration's officials immediately made statements about this that basically conflict with what we can see with our own eyes on the video. And that is true, that their statements seemed off from what is questionable behavior by the ICE agent for what we know now. Before we get into more information, and obviously this incident, the very swift killing of an American citizen by an ICE agent, operating under the authority of the Trump administration, will surely be investigated thoroughly. We may learn a lot more. I want to now show you what the local official said on the beat here. Mayor Jacob Frey was very clear in immediately responding with a message for ICE using strong language.
To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
Tempers high. The Trump administration has said it was deploying 2,000 ICE agents to the city, and it has sort of promoted it, or at least touted it, as the, quote, largest federal immigration enforcement operation ever carried out. The first day of the operation has resulted in the death of this woman. Now, ICE released a statement that said the officer was acting in self-defense. I will read you what they say here. One of these violent rioters, that's how they're describing the individual in the vehicle, weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them. an act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer, fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. Now, when you watch the video, you can see for yourself what actually unfolded. So whether the ICE agent had any reason to consider the individual in a car a, quote, violent rioter is not supported by what little we see here. And then you can see the agent firing the shot is over to the left. That's not to minimize the fact that these situations can escalate and the agents could have faced some sort of threat. But the video that we have does not match on its face the claims by the Trump ICE spokespeople. Mayor Frey and Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara were also quite clear on the facts in rejecting the ICE claim today.
What I can tell you is the narrative that this was just done in self-defense is a garbage narrative. That is not true. It has no truth. And it needs to be stated very clearly since we have already seen a video of it. I do not know as to what you're talking about.
In any professional law enforcement agency in the country, I think they would tell you it's obviously very concerning whenever there's a shooting into a vehicle of someone who's not armed.
The individual being unarmed is an important detail because the standard of force under American law is that there has to be the threat of a lethal attack or grievous bodily injury for law enforcement to use deadly force. They have other levels of force, of course, and there are other things that can be done, but firing on an individual, in this case, what the agent may have seen, a woman in a car, does require that predicate. It may be that the ICE spokespeople felt that knowing that, they would just claim it, because absent that type of legal defense, you are immediately in the territory of a question of whether this should be investigated and anyone should be charged inside the government for what is the killing of this citizen. State officials also tell us they're investigating the shooting with the FBI doing that as well. The mayor says people in the city of Minneapolis can be outraged, they can grieve, but he is insisting and urging everyone to do so peacefully. There's also a vigil planned for this evening. Reverend Al Sharpton is standing by and will join me as part of our coverage tonight while we begin with Mark Claxton, retired NYPD detective, director of the Black Law Enforcement Alliance, an individual that we've called on before in cases where, of course, law enforcement, which includes ICE, have a job to do and they face threats, and we understand that. But there are also the rights of citizens, and you've sort of walked that line between both of those obligations. First, your view of what the video shows.
Well, Ari, the temptation for an old beat cop like myself is to engage in some analysis on a tactical level about what we saw from the police officers on the street and how perhaps bad tactics may have contributed to what caused the death of this young lady. But that would be just a mistake to do. I think we have to really examine the level of threat and danger that the general public is faced with based on this ill-conceived kind of practice and policy. So not only do you have the civilian population placed at that additional risk, but you have law enforcement also negatively impacted by terrible, awful policies. And then you have this schism between local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. You have federal law enforcement, putting a patch over their agent patch on their vests and claiming to be police, which kind of connotes for people that these are street cops, familiar with local practices, and that is far from the case here. So it's very troubling, very disturbing. I don't think anyone is surprised. I think there was some expectation that there would be some disastrous outcomes as a result of this immigration policy, I guess you want to call it. And there should be significant concern about the use of these federal agents operating on local communities as quote unquote police officers, and what that does to the reputation of law enforcement specifically.
Yeah. We talked about understanding what's happened there based on the evidence we have. I also want to play video taken here from a bystander witness account. Take a look.
Basically, ladies trying to warn everyone ICE is in the neighborhood. Just letting them know, hey, and telling ICE, hey, you're destroying families, whatnot. Stop doing this. Hey, get out of here. Stop that. She reversed so traffic can go by. The pickup truck, gray pickup truck, officer ICE got out and was telling her, hey, well, didn't tell her anything really, just telling her what, I'm going to open up your door and I'm going to get you out. And that's when the shooting happened, and the car took off, and then it sped off and crashed right into the cars.
Mark?
Just terrible. Just bad all around. And I think that is a precursor for more tragedy if we don't change the direction of this particular enforcement method.
Understood. And I appreciate you joining us as our first expert guest. Our thanks to Mark Claxton. We had the Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, able to join us on a very busy and difficult evening there. Your response to these events today, and will the state investigate?
I could say this is a tragically foreseeable incident, because when you escalate with the number of ICE agents that Trump has done, when you recruit them, when you train them, when you signal to them that they don't have to operate under the normal rules by disclosing their identity, you let them wear masks, you do all these kind of things, you are going to have tragic incidents like this. It is foreseeable, and it should